Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I really don't like space adventures.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Hellraiser 4 Bloodlines, which came out in 1996 from director Alan Smithy? No, that's not right. We know what that means. The directors had their name removed from the film.
I thought it was Kevin Yagher.
It was Kevin Yagher, and Kevin Yagher is actually a fantastic special effects person who worked on such films as Friday the 13th, doing the gore effects.
Yeah.
He did A Nightmare on Elm Street. He did the Freddy Krueger worm. He did the bug cockroach creature lady.
Oh, so he's a brilliant director then?
No.
Oh, God, it's one of those.
It's one of those where they've hired someone who does great creature effects and figured they'd have a great eye behind the camera. And I believe that he almost did. It was the studio, yet again, deciding that you're making a Hellraiser movie. We own Pinhead, we own this franchise, and Pinhead sells. So, where the fuck is Pinhead in your Hellraiser movie? And Kevin Yagher was like, yeah, he'll turn up in about the 40-minute to the 60-minute mark. You know, I'm being faithful to Clive Barker and to the original Hellraiser. And the studio were like, fuck that! Pinhead, opening shot. And we get flashes of Pinhead at the opening of the film, even before the credits. It's like, Jesus, so they weren't joking, were they? Even Clive Barker turned around and said, hey, if you put Pinhead in here and here and here and here and have him all over the film, he's not going to be as scary anymore. No. You take away the impact. So the producers were like, we'll just throw in more blood. That'll work. Yeah. Jesus. Anyway, Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis for Hellraiser Bloodlines?
Well, stay with me on this one. The movie starts in 2127 on the space station Minos, where a scientist has taken control of the space station and is trying to use it to open up the box and contain the Cenobites. We find out that this scientist is a long-lost descendant of a toy maker from the 18th century who first created the Lament configuration box and watched it being used as a doorway to hell to bring forth a demon named Angelique. Angelique then spends the next 200, 300 years chasing down the descendants of that same toy maker from the 18th century, trying to stop these long descendants from creating devices that might be able to destroy hell.
Still hungry? Ready for something that screams?
What the fuck? Seriously. You know, I like Hellraiser. I think a lot of people do. But at the end of Hellraiser 3, that was it. You know, there was that cool shot of her putting the box inside the cement and the building being built and everyone going, oh great, they're going to do a Poltergeist 3 on Hellraiser. Hellraiser in a building. Die Hard Hellraiser. All that kind of shit. And I really hope that they wouldn't, because that's where horror movies start to take a dive. You know, when you take this central horror figure that, you know, is just killing teens on the whim and force them into a building or, you know, a place. I know in Hellraiser 1 they were in that house, but it was very claustrophobic, you know, like Alien. They're caught inside this haunted house kind of thing. Putting them into a building with like 70 floors kind of just blows your mind that nobody could actually just escape out of a window, you know? But like Gary said at the beginning, this film had a very troubled production shoot where, you know, the company behind it went, no, that's not going to work.
Well, Kevin Yagher was shooting a lot of stuff, and he had the vision in mind. It was going to be faithful to the original Hellraiser movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, the studio kept intervening, so much so that they were shooting scenes behind the director's back. And of course, when Kevin Yagher found out that the studio was shooting its own movie, he just went, fuck you, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Yeah.
See ya. And had his name removed from the film. And so they brought in director Joe Chappelle, who was the director for The Phantoms with Ben Affleck. And so he literally also went, you know, I don't want my name attached to this either, so he's in there as a special thanks somewhere in the credits. And so what we do have here is a botched together mess of two different scripts and two different visions, along with the studio wanting Pinhead, Pinhead, Pinhead.
It's like a TV made movie for me. You know, I can see what they were trying, but with the budget restraints, 1 minute we've got flashes of giant space stations, in space. And I'm like, okay, we've got Amiga graphics. That's great.
Well, yeah, that lament configuration with the robot trying to appearing to try and open it.
Yeah.
It does look really ropey, and the best excuse that you can really come up with is that that's not the real box, that's just Merchant sort of looking at a computer terminal which is showing him what he's looking at. It's just a 3D representation of the real box.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. It's just obviously, the fact that the practical effects, we're talking 1996, he's got these gloves on, which he's trying to make a lawnmower man box thing. Then you've got the Amiga graphics of what he's looking at. Then obviously you've got this put together robot, which obviously isn't actually moving because I don't think they had the budget for that. And it opens the box, or it doesn't open the box flies out of its hand and the Cenobites destroy the robot and mock Merchant. Okay, so the Cenobites are on the space station. And then the police turn up. See, this is where it starts, Gary. This is where it starts. You get those space soldiers. Space soldiers, I'm going to call them, who run on board the space station. There's like, what, 4 of them? 5 of them?
Yeah.
We don't even get a description of what's going on. They just run on board with these really stupidly huge guns. And they take Merchant. What are you doing? Step away from the console. Oh, come on.
Well, it transpires that he was the one who designed the spacecraft, who has now hijacked it in order to do what he needs to do. And of course, these soldiers interrupt him and cart him off for some exposition as to what led them to this point.
Yes.
Which takes us all the way back to 1796, where we are introduced to the toy maker who makes the original Lament configuration, which ties you all the way back to the Hellbound Heart, the original Clive Barker novella, where we are shown and how the box was created and for whom it was created for.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we're going with that, right? We've gone back to 1796. Toy maker is making this box and he's giving it to this French aristocrat. Now, I've never read the Hellbound Heart. Now, is that in the actual first story that this toy maker made the box?
Yes.
Right, okay. Because in the first movie, Pinhead comes from this dimension and explains about how they're explorers.
Yes.
So, but in this one, we're told that the toy maker created this box.
Yes.
So this toy maker is such an amazing toy maker. He purposely created a puzzle box that opens a doorway to hell.
No. He designed the box that to a specification for this, as you said, this French aristocrat who is a master of the dark arts.
Yeah.
And he has the power anyway to open up portals basically to other dimensions. The Hell dimension from Hellraiser. He uses the box basically as a key. So that he doesn't have to keep doing this ritual and this incantation in order to open the portal to hell. So when he has the box, he imbues it with dark power, which is why when Merchant first makes the box and it opens, no chains come out, no Cenobites come out, because it needed to be imbued with the dark power.
Right.
Which is what we do see happen. And then, of course, it does lead to them bringing back this young, attractive peasant girl. The sequence is a little bit bizarre where, they're feeding her these delicacies and grapes and things.
Yeah.
And it's very disturbing, as we can tell. All of the signs are there that you're being set up to be killed. And so all of a sudden all the food turns into maggots and it's gross and it's all rotted away. And then they strangle her out. And in a pretty gory scene, they de-skin her and hang her flailed skin up on hooks.
Yeah, see, now that's where I started to get really confused. Because like I said, I got confused anyway because I thought the toy maker had created the box and opened the doorway to hell. But so he's just created a toy box, given it to this French aristocrat. The French aristocrat has imbued the box with demonic power, but at the same time, while he's bringing the power up, he's summoned this demon Angelique into the skin of the peasant girl.
And it just so happens to be the princess of this hell dimension.
Yeah.
Pretty big score.
Yeah, that's it. He's brought this princess forward and then, it keeps going on you're repeating the same sequence of whoever summons has the power.
He who summons the magic commands the magic.
Right. And he summoned her. The French aristocrat summoned Angelique. So he's got the power over Angelique.
Yes.
Right. Why did she kill him?
Well, there are a wealth of deleted scenes from the film. As I said, the studio were like, Pinhead hasn't turned up yet, so cut this, and cut all of this. But that makes sense of the story. We don't care. If Pinhead's not there, the audience don't care. They're not going to piece together this story, so fuck them.
Yeah, fuck
And
you.
it's really insulting because the majority of the material that was cut from this film is all based around Angelique and her creation and what happened here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it also goes to show that there's other dialogue later in the film that relates back to all of this stuff that was cut. With the French aristocrat that summoned her actually intended to send her back, and successfully does, and contains her power. His associate, I think it's Jacques, actually summons her back. And when he summons her back, she then kills off...
Right. See, now that makes more fucking sense now.
But all of this is cut, and so, yeah, it just jumps very quickly so that we can get to the present day and get Pinhead on screen.
Yeah, see, yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Obviously, we're trying to keep with the continuity of the film as best as we can. You know, like we said, Jacques is fucking Angelique, and the Duke de la Isle, I think he is. Yeah. He's been killed, and we realise obviously Merchant has seen them summon this demon and realised that, you know, what they're doing to, you know, the box is not what I intended it to do.
I love the fact that he goes to see his coroner friend.
Oh, that's one of my favourite scenes. The coroner just like, you designed it. Why didn't you design a weapon to destroy it?
Well, then the solution lies literally in your hands. You've designed a machine that you fear can bring forth demons.
Yes.
Then design a machine that can destroy them.
Now, see, that does bring up the question where, yes, he did create the box, and so he has no idea what sort of magic is involved in it. Yet, as soon as he realises that he's created a Hellbox portal thing, he immediately goes to work trying to find a way to close it forever.
Exactly,
which is what doesn't make sense.
That's it. That's it. That on top of all the stuff that's already deleted starts to get me confused. Yeah, and the toy maker goes to the house. Like I said, I started getting confused even more because it was like he was inside the house immediately. You know, he snuck inside the house. Then it cuts back to his girlfriend who has seen the designs that he's made of destroying the box. She chucks on her green cloak. And she fucks off to the house as well. So everybody is at the Duke de la Isle's house now. She does something to the toy maker. We don't see it. We just see him stumble out of the door into his girlfriend's arms. And he's like, run, leave, save the child, blah, blah, blah. And she runs off.
Well, we kind of knew that the bloodline would continue because we've seen him in space.
The future flashback. This is it. Because then we cut to 1996 and we follow another toy maker descendant who, you know, amazingly, that was kind of cool. Just use the same guy for every fucking descendant.
You know what? I don't have a big problem with that. I mean, yeah, you could have got a different actor, but at least they kind of changed the makeup. They changed the moles on his face. They changed his haircut so that, you know, there was like distinct...
Budget restrictions.
Yeah, okay, they only had to pay one actor, but I think it works. I think the actor also does a good enough job selling each individual representation of that.
He does that very well. But as I said, with this movie, I'd only ever seen it once and got really fucking bored of it the first time. When I was watching the second time, I was trying to keep into it, but a few things stopped me off. First off, if you're going to start a film in 2127, it tells us that none of the descendants are going to die.
Yeah.
So putting them in harm's way just doesn't work.
Okay, just to argue that in the original idea with the Chris Yagher project, it would have flown naturally from the French period to the modern day to the space naturally instead of jumping everywhere.
That's fine, but you're calling it Hellraiser Bloodlines, which means the descendant, you know, we're talking horror movie, standard horror movie tropes. The fucking main good guy never really dies like that. You know, you just get the descendants over and over. Secondly, okay, Pinhead. Yes, all right, he was the selling point, and I do blame the studio for obviously trying to force him down our throats, but we kind of accepted him as the big dude, didn't we? You know, trying to make Angelique the new Julia.
Absolutely, she has many traits with Julia.
Yeah.
You know, she gets brought forward from hell, and
Yeah.
she eventually leads random men down into the basement in order to feast upon them.
Yeah, but that's it. That's only when she's overcome Jacques and torn him to pieces. I was trying to work out how this all worked while I was watching the film, and if Jacques has summoned her the second time and has power over her, why does she leave it for 200 years and then tear him to pieces?
Well, as we were told right at the beginning, that you can only control the demon so long as you don't get in its way, which basically means you
Right.
don't control the demon.
Yeah.
So if the demon wants to go somewhere, you fucking let it. And after 200 years of sex and pleasure and all the joys of controlling a demon slave brings to offer, Jack, completely intoxicated on his own power and alcohol, decides, you know what, fuck you, Angelique, you ain't going nowhere. You do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And of course, that, she gives him fair warning. She's like, why won't you let me go? Do you not even want to hear why I want to go? And I love the shot where she just puts the cigarette out and the drink.
Is that your final word?
Yes.
Yeah, but he summons a demon. The man didn't actually wake up that morning and go, yeah, today I'm just going to forget everything I've been doing the last 200 years. He's, like you said, he's drunk on his own power to the point of, oh yeah, I totally forgot everything I was ever taught about summoning demons. I'm immortal. I haven't aged.
I'm guessing it's a side effect of being able to have a demon slave.
Yeah, but the effects of him, getting blooded, her hand, like I said, TV made
Again,
movie.
it reminds me of Julia because she pulls the heart out of this guy as well, like Julia does Frank in the second Hellraiser.
Yeah, but in the second Hellraiser, it'd been built up. There are so many motifs in Hellraiser Bloodline that they just literally just stole from the first and second movie. I mean, this 1996 skyscraper moment of the film, in this skyscraper stuff, you've got the line of, oh, I've got such sights to show you. You got the little flashy blue lights and the light coming up the walls, just like you did in the first Hellraiser. I mean, for fuck's sake, Angelique finds the box. This got confusing. She finds the box that Joey put in the cement at the end of Hellraiser 3. But I thought, because this is what the film's telling me, I thought that John Merchant of 1996 had constructed the skyscraper.
Yes.
But now it's telling me that he was called to that location by the box that had been put there by Joey, and he built the building around it.
They do say several times that his blood is calling to him. It's like genetic memory.
Yeah.
And, it's not really come up in the Hellraiser movies before, but it's kind of fine. It kind of works in this film. And so, yeah, I think it's a combination of both. The fact that he is kind of destined to keep coming up with this design. He keeps having nightmares about the box and the pleasures that it can bring you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just coincidental. No, it's the magic of the box and his bloodline. It's the hell dimension has always been there, and it's been there, I guess, forever. And it's just only until 1796 we managed to find our first doorway to that dimension.
Yeah.
Through magic.
Yeah, because this is it. I mean, like I said, Hellraiser 1, Pinhead said he was an explorer. There was a dimension. Now this film's actually forcing us to acknowledge the fact that this is hell.
A pathway to hell.
Not just hell on its own, but hell, the biblical hell, the one that...
Does it?
Yeah, it does. It does when Angelique goes to the basement and she takes that man with her, and she gets him to open the box, and the box opens up the doorway, and the guy gets pulled through the smoke with chains. So, that's the movie saying, hey, you wanted Hellraiser, here's some chains, some blood effects, and we're going to tear this guy apart. And then Pinhead appears and brings the box and immediately acknowledges Angelique like he's known her for years, like known her for centuries. He even acknowledges her as the princess. So it's like, right, okay, so you work, technically, in the lines of it, you work for Angelique. She's like your boss. Right, so if she's the princess, who's the king? Well, the king would obviously acknowledge that it would be Lucifer, you know?
No, in the Wikipedia it's explained that she is the daughter of Leviathan, and this has no relation to
Right,
Satan or hell
no.
whatsoever.
If I wanted to Wikipedia, I would have Wikipedia. But
They
then
never
I
mention
was
Satan
going,
or hell biblically.
They don't say Satan.
So why are you
They
bringing-
don't say Satan. But the acknowledgement from what I got from the movie, the way they talk to each other, she even says to Pinhead, he says, "I haven't seen you in so long." That must mean that she disappeared in 1796 from that dimension.
Pinhead
and
wouldn't have
she
existed
turns
then
around
either.
and says, "Well, I see hell has changed."
Things seem to have changed.
Because she acknowledges that Pinhead, who we understand is in the form of what was forced onto Elliot Spencer, is changed from what his normal demonic appearance would be.
No.
That's what she told me through the film.
No.
That's what she told me.
She would have not recognised him at all. She was expecting her clowns, which were her Cenobites, which were all deleted from the film. So,
Right, okay.
So that her lines of dialogue were cut there, and he would, of course, not even have existed. Not when she was running or as a princess in this hell dimension.
She doesn't recognize Elliot Spencer. She recognized the demon possessing him.
No, she doesn't recognise
Yes,
him
she
at
does.
all. All she recognises is a demon from hell that is not one of hers.
Then why does she say the line, "I see hell has changed"?
Because in a deleted scene, she had her own Cenobites, which are not here.
No, they're not. They're not. We've
So
got
that is
we've
why
got to
she says it's
assume
changed. And this
we've
is
got to
why
assume that
Pinhead
Pinhead's
says-
Cenobites have already still been destroyed at the end of Hellraiser 2 and brought in from Hellraiser 3. But the wording, I'm not arguing. I'm going with the script that was told to me.
Hell is more ordered since your time, princess, and much less amusing.
Because
Yes.
she had clown Cenobites.
Right, he says hell isn't as fun as
He
it.
says hell plenty of times.
Yeah, he does.
no longer. He
He
never
he
referenced
does.
it as a biblical hell ever. I don't know how you managed to get
Because
that.
that's what I picked up from the film.
You just looking for an angle to hate on the film and then going, "Oh, it's biblical hell, so fuck it."
No.
The film doesn't do that.
No. I'll argue with that. I sat through the whole film, right? And there were parts that I did enjoy. What I didn't enjoy was the tacked on cash in of trying to make money.
No.
from a
I'm
slash
arguing
film.
You're saying that it's a biblical hell. I want to know where you're finding the
from
biblical
the,
hell.
from the different lines that Pinhead, because now we're in 1996, Pinhead has now turned up, and Doug Bradley has a lot of screen time.
Yes.
He has a lot of screen time, and he goes on about the suffering and the pain.
The Garden of Eden. A garden of flesh.
Now, as the Hellraiser movies have been going on, from number 1, Hellraiser 1, he says, from Clive Barker, because he wrote and directed the first one, right? He wrote that they were explorers from another dimension. But in Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, Hellraiser 4, and I'm going to assume the the 5 Hellraiser movies, they took away Clive Barker and they went, no, you know, the studio or the writers or screenplay, whatever. They turned around and went, no, people say hell. We need them to understand what hell is. Oh, well, we will, you know, when he says about, in this one, they say about God. There's a line where he says like, "Oh God," and he's like, "No, do I even look like I care what God thinks?"
For 1,000 years, his dearest wish will be that he had.
For God's sake.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
So he acknowledges God. He acknowledges that by saying, "I do not care what he thinks." So to acknowledge God, you have to acknowledge that there is a hell. You have to acknowledge that the Cenobites are what we humans would consider demons. Angelique is a demon princess, has to be the birth child of whatever, like you said in the Wikipedia page, is Leviathan. But they don't say Leviathan in this movie. You know, they imply to you that whatever is in charge of hell. Well, what is in charge of hell? Most of the time it's Lucifer, Satan. Oh, right, so they're all demons. They're not. They shouldn't have been, and this is the
And thankfully, they are not.
yeah, this is the issues that I had with this film as this film ticked along, because to me the Cenobites are not demonic. They're from another dimension. They're from the same dimension that the Event Horizon went to. They're from the same dimensions that the Chaos Space Marines go into in 40K. They operate in that astral realm between the realms, you know, where pain and pleasure becomes this thing. You know, oh no, I'm not talking fucking Jesus Christ. And that's what pisses me off about these fucking films, because every now and again they go, okay, Pinhead, we want you to pose like Jesus Christ and mock the religious aspects of the human race.
The same defiance, the same faithless hope in the light.
And what do you have faith in?
Nothing. I am so exquisitely empty.
Yeah, but by doing that, it does evoke, you know, terror in the pious people.
Yes, those pious people who shouldn't ever watch Hellraiser movies because they think, oh God, you're mocking us. No, we're not. We're making a film about a guy, you know, who we want to turn into a slasher character, but he's not. And this is the thing. The 1996 skyscraper moment. They bring Hellraiser in, and he's wandering around the building. He's wandering around the building, luring security guards into death traps.
I do admit, I do have a small problem with the fact that Pinhead does appear in this building, and then a moment later he appears in Merchant's house.
Oh God, yeah.
Terrorizing his wife and child.
Right, okay. Did he walk down the street or teleport?
Because as far as I'm aware, the box didn't open in their apartment.
No.
So maybe he caught a yellow cab.
And that's the thing. The mum says to the little kid, I'm going to be back in a minute, right? I'm going to walk down these really horrible basement stairs to do my washing. Like the most terrifying basement ever. Which I got to bring up, I think it's Bobby Merchant, his wife. She played Lisa in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. So I recognised her. So Lisa's gone down to the basement to do her washing, left their kid upstairs, who you know, in the film implies he's super smart because he's the son of the toy maker, because he's constructing that Catherine wheel. She realises that something's wrong with her son, you know, and races back up the stairs. And she gets into the apartment, and the place has been trashed. So somebody has come into the apartment to get the boy and scared the crap out of him. She goes to the top of the stairs, looks down, you know, the boy's there. She's like, come to me. And he's like, I can. Pinhead's holding my hand and won't let me go. So I'm like, wait. So Pinhead has gone to the apartment, found out where Merchant lives, come to the apartment, trashed the apartment, or the kid has trashed the apartment trying to run away from Pinhead, who's slowly walking around.
I always put it down to the fact that whenever Pinhead arrives, everything explodes. You know?
Yeah. And he says, well, we need live bait. And so he takes the wife and the child back to the skyscraper because... I know, right? Like I said, this is the issues that I do have with the film, because I do get confused by the film a lot. Right. So, Merchant has constructed the skyscraper to trap the demons inside.
Yes. Well, in an attempt to. He wasn't finished yet. Angelique has realised what Merchant is trying to do and knows that it will destroy hell. It won't necessarily destroy hell, but it will close the gateway to their dimension forever. Right. Because there's no one else in this family tree, and I guess no one else might figure out how to accidentally stumble into their dimension. Right. So it's not set up properly, but there is a conflict between Pinhead and Angelique. Yeah, that's what I was going to get to, because, you know, Angelique is dragging it out, and Pinhead keeps appearing, going on about how the games have to end. I'm always under the attitude that less is more. And yet in this movie... And the studio literally said, no, more is more. Yeah, more is more. So more Pinhead, okay. I don't mind it, but after a while it starts to wane on me. Especially this segment and the segment in the future, where it's just literally Pinhead constantly on screen saying, right, okay, the game is going to end, but I'm going to drag it out a little bit longer. I'm going to drag it out just a little bit longer. Now the game's going to end, I'm going to decapitate Merchant. And I'm like, you had ample enough opportunity. Standard, what I'm talking about is the standard horror character villain cliche. Well, I like the fact that Pinhead doesn't just want to kill him straight away. You know, he builds up to it. He likes to give great grand speeches.
Yes.
And he likes to sell himself before he does eviscerate and kill anyone.
Yeah.
If Pinhead turns up and kills you straight away, then it's a cop out.
Yeah, but I'd rather it be. I think what Pinhead needs to start doing is to leave the big speeches for the people who don't matter to the story and torture them for an eternity, and the people who might actually fucking defeat you, kill in 5 seconds!
Well, Angelique has no problems with wanting him dead as well.
Yeah.
Yet she decides that she's going to have dream sex with him. She's going to flirt with him.
Yeah.
She's going to turn up and try and lure him away.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, to what end? And so she wants him dead so that he and his bloodline can never open
or close
the gateway to hell. Yeah. Whereas Pinhead is quite excited because he wants hell on earth still.
Yeah, we ain't even at the end of the fucking movie yet. The merchant has created that laser light show
in his
which forces the box. See, this I got confused at this point as well. So Merchant's just had his head cut off, which was a cool special effect, I suppose.
I like the fact that Pinhead's chain's got an upgrade.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet. And Lisa from Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has already used the box to send the dog away, but we didn't see. And she tries to use the box against Pinhead. The box gets pulled out of her hands, chains up Angelique, and starts freaking Pinhead out. Then it explodes and sucks everything into it.
Yeah, a little bit rushed there. It didn't really make too much sense, and
it was like an ending of the movie halfway through the movie.
Well, yeah, it's pretty much how all the other Hellraiser films have ended, and of course this does, as we know, will lead into the space adventures.
Which, just in case you missed it, here's a quick replay that the film gives you.
Yes, it does quickly recap again, which is quite annoying. It's like, in case you dozed off in between the beginning and now, here's what happened. And, I can't believe we've missed this, but there is one of my favourite deaths in the film as we follow these two bumbling security guards around the office block.
No, I didn't miss it.
And, they're fairly likeable characters, despite the fact that they're pretty simplistic.
What's this? It's a door. I know it's a door, but it isn't on the chart. Genius college boys.
Again, the signs are there that you are in a place that you should not be in. It's like, there's this door. It's not on the grid. Let's explore it. Oh, look, this corridor doesn't feel natural whatsoever. Let's go down it. Oh, look, there's blood everywhere. Let's go explore it. Yeah. And so it's like...
They got stepped into a corridor that led to Angelique's bedroom?
Well, at this point, the Hell Dimension is bleeding into this apartment.
The door's open,
And so what I do like is that we get to see some of the corridors, some of the labyrinth from previous Hellraiser films, much more heavily decorated this time. A lot more chains, a lot more sound effects, some more interesting lighting. We don't really get to see the Hell Dimension that much, but there's nice hints of it in here, and it is very faithful to what we were shown in Hellraiser 1 and 2. And so these security guards, they do come across Pinhead, and again, Pinhead just decides he's going to give another terrifying speech.
Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you. I am pain.
And he plays on their fears, because he can read their minds about how they never wanted to be separated.
Right, yeah. So so we've established from Hellraiser 3, he can read minds now.
He was always able to.
Right. Okay, I never got that.
Well, I mean, it's like in the first film, he knew who Kirsty was. He knew her name before she ever said, "Hey, I'm Kirsty," and I opened the box. The Cenobites know who you are when their dimension is brought forward, and so what we do get is part of the effect works and part of it doesn't. We see these two clamps come on either side of the two security guards.
Yeah.
And we see this drill bit going into both of their cheeks. Yet in the next shot, the drill bits have disappeared, and there's this sort of cylindrical
Pie,
centerpiece
yeah.
that's now twisting and pulling both of their heads together. And it does cut away, and your imagination is left to do some of the work, but what is there, I think, is pretty horrifying. And it is one of the first times we've ever seen a Cenobite. And this does also make me question what we did see happen in Hellraiser 2 Hellbound,
Yeah.
because we do again see the pipes go in, the red coming out, and the blue going in.
Yes,
So I'm like, okay,
yeah.
so perhaps Chennard was a Cenobite after all, because
Yeah,
this is the first Cenobite we're ever seeing being made. However, maybe there's a difference between being turned into a Cenobite on Earthrealm compared to being turned into a Cenobite in the Hell Realm and being made in one of those box things.
Yeah,
so there's still a difference between how these Cenobites are made.
This is it. This is where obviously bringing up the whole biblical stuff in the horror movie doesn't work. This is why you shouldn't do that kind of stuff, because when the Cenobites are created, it's not demonic possession. It's more like they're being endued with a weird fluid from this dimensional realm, which changes them from a human to this creature. Like, I don't see Elliot Spencer in Pinhead, I see fucking Pinhead. Bringing in the whole demonic thing in Hellraiser Bloodline, it's like, oh, well, you know, Angelique's a demon. It's like pure fucking blood demon, you know? But Pinhead and twins, I suppose they are now, the twins, they're humans that have been converted.
Yeah.
Right. What? I mean, one thing I did think they should have done, if they were going to extend the skyscraper sequence, would have been when you followed Merchant walking down the corridors, you would have seen his employees being torn apart. Because we'd already seen him walking around the offices talking to these people, but then when he goes back to the building after Pinhead's taken over, there's those 2 security guards, and that's it. For this fucking giant building. You know?
I'm going to guess that they've all been sucked into the hell dimension already.
That's it. That's it. When Merchant was walking through those corridors and sees all the chains and the wolf's head and the arms going through, it would have been cool for him to walk past different offices where people were being tortured. You know, how Pinhead has taken control of the building and everything in it. Not, oh, don't come into work today, there's a demon on board. You know, oh, today's Sunday, you can have it off kind of thing. That would have just been stupid. But yeah, so Merchant has been killed. All the Cenobites have been sucked into the box. We're back to the future now. And it's just, see, like I said, I don't want to hate on this movie. I really don't want to hate on this movie. But it's fucking colored by numbers now. Tell me it's not colored by numbers.
Now, this is the weakest section of the film, where it does turn into the most generic of all slasher films. The Cenobites have escaped their holding pen because the security forces have turned up and opened the door.
Token black guy!
Token black guy gets eviscerated. Well, he gets his face pulled off by Pinhead in a pretty cool effect. And there is an alternate sequence where Pinhead actually feeds him to the dog.
Right.
To the beast, or to the chatterer beast dog thing.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it does just fall to pieces, and we'll literally follow these characters, and they hide in the darkness before being jumped at and jump scare, and yeah, it's all filler. And of course, we also have this character called Rimmer, and and you know that name, it's pretty familiar. And of course, Hellraiser being a Clive Barker, a very British production, with this incorporating elements of sci-fi, you can't help, of course, but think of Hologram Rimmer from the Red Dwarf series.
Look out!
Mr. Flibble says, game over, boys.
So...
Yeah, so, Rimmer, how are you going to fare off?
Well, interestingly, in an original script, Rimmer was one of the first to die. And there was another woman who was actually going to be there helping, I think it's John Merchant, and it was going to be a member of the Cotton family was actually going to be there to help him out. And so it was going to tie everything together, but, you know, the studio was like, no, this girl will do, Rimmer, you can be the one to help save Merchant. And so, yeah, Pinhead finishes killing off the rest of the personnel, and we get the finale, basically, with Merchant and Pinhead locked in a room.
Before we get to that point, because I got something to talk about with that point, but we already talked about the twins and their piston head. There's a point where the guards, the space police, are being killed off one by one. And one of them says, I need to go find so-and-so, and tells Rimmer to get to the shuttle. And Merchant says to this space policeman, don't take your gun, it's fucking useless. We've already seen one of them try to shoot Pinhead with lasers, and it was useless. I'll give you something that might work. So the security guard goes into the Merchant's room, which the door's open anyway, why the Cenobites haven't just left. But he goes into the room, picks up the box, Pinhead jumps out, scares him, and he's like, oh, why can't I open this box? Oh! And Pinhead just takes the box off of him.
I just thought that was so funny because, we've had so many people come up and go, oh, it's the molecular relation, solved it,
yeah.
And so, you'd expect that the majority of people would not be able to fucking open it.
Yeah, but why did Merchant send him there? Why did he go, you're not that smart, I'm going to give you the box to solve?
Well, maybe John Merchant was smart enough to know to get him out of the way.
Yeah, to use him as a distraction. Because it's the death sequence I didn't get either, because the twins come along and kind of uncoil themselves, stand with the space policeman in the middle of them, and then coil their face back up, which fucks his head up and then sucks the rest of his, because you see his feet.
Well, we just see him sort of dissolving and melting, so I can only imagine that, they've consuming him. At first I was like, is he going to be a third head? Are they just going to keep growing? But it cuts away, and again, your imagination creates something quite horrifying there.
Mine didn't. Mine created blanks. I was like, what the fuck happened? But then, we're going to skip to the end. Merchant has appeared in the room with Pinhead. Just appeared. He said to Rimmer, right, go off to the space shuttle. Rimmer's being chased by the dog, which is a really bad effect. I'm not going to go into start an argument, but it's a really bad effect.
You've said it now. I think the Chatterer dog is an interesting sort of development of the Hellraiser lore, because
the dog stole the box.
It does seem pretty damn stupid that an animal would be able to solve the box. And I don't know, YouTube's rife with very intelligent animals, but I really doubt they would have been able to solve the box. Which leads me to believe, and that's something I've theorized before, is that other planets in the universe have opened up gateways to this dimension.
Yes.
Possibly.
Yes.
Not with the box, not with magic, I don't know, some other method. And so what we're seeing here is something from another dimension. Or it was a human that's undergone such extreme amounts of torture and transformation that it has literally been trained to be Pinhead's dog. And that is also quite frightening as an idea. So, it doesn't look perfect on screen.
No, that's the issue I have.
I appreciate the desire to make something unique and different, and to give fans something else to mock at, or laugh at,
the dog itself looks nice, but it's the fact that when you try to get it to run down corridors, or when it's climbing across the table, chasing after Bobby in the 1996 sequence, chasing after Rimmer into the airlock. It's the fact that I sit there and I go, right, okay, I know its effects, and this brings me back to Pinhead, which I didn't want to, but it's the fact that the more screen time you gave Pinhead, the more I was just like, it's just a guy in a mask. Yes. Just like Jason, just like Freddy, just like Chucky. It's not really a demonic dimensional being anymore. It's a guy in a mask giving me long speeches. Oh look, here comes its dog. That's not really a killer dog. It's a prosthetic effect that somebody has spent 8 to 12 hours building so that it can do that effect. And then it gets chased into the airlock. And it's not like the airlock was even a cop-out as well, because, I'm assuming it's an airlock, because we don't see the door, but the dog chases her in, she closes it, hits the button, and the depressurization makes him explode. Lasers didn't affect Pinhead. Bullets and guns don't fucking affect Pinhead, but decompression in an airlock of a spaceship will make you explode.
Yeah, I guess so. No forces of magic are going to hold you together, really.
Yeah.
Who knows? And so I also wonder, does that dog thing end up back in hell, or is it dead?
Yeah, is it dead? Or does it explode? Yeah. So Merchant has told Rimmer to get to the space shuttle because he doesn't want to kill anybody else. He wants to save at least one soul. He told us this at the beginning. You know, should have listened to him at the beginning. And he disappears in the room with Pinhead. And like I said, long-winded speeches from Pinhead after a while. I'm just like, give it up, because he gives this big speech to Merchant, and then Merchant disappears. And it turns out he was a hologram.
No!
Yeah, this is it. Wait. Pinhead should have fucking sensed the shit out of it that he wasn't really there. But he didn't. He just had this long-winded speech, and Merchant just went, I was on the shuttle the whole time.
God damn you Hollywood producers, you fucked the ending.
Fucked it.
In the original script, he is in there with Pinhead because he knows that Pinhead would know whether it was a hologram or not. Come on.
Oh, don't mirrors.
Exactly. So it just makes Pinhead look to be absolutely retarded that he couldn't sense that he was in the room with a real person. Pinhead spent a lifetime exploring suffering, pain, flesh, fear. He would know, unless, like Jock from the beginning of the film, that he's so drunk on power that he just didn't even believe that he could possibly be tricked, because maybe Pinhead's not aware of modern technology,
ego and
his ego got the better of him, which is then the death of Pinhead. And because we watched the spacecraft seal itself up, and we realised that it was actually a floating cube the whole time, which I don't have too big a problem with, because we've seen the setup for it from before.
It was good, but like I said, I don't want to hate on the film, but the issue I have, and it's an issue I have with a lot of horror film series, if you watched our fucking Halloween series, is that you keep dragging this character out, making them go through the same motions, and then killing them off in a really ridiculous period, knowing full well that, you know, we're just going to reboot the fucking franchise in about 3 years anyway, with a whole new fucking set of people for him to kill off and bring him back in. And I just watch Pinhead stand there, the hologram disappear, he goes, where have you gone? What am I doing? The place seals around him. He gets hit with laser damage. His face gets burnt off. He gets crucified on the wall in what can only be like a celebrity fucking motif, name dropping there, you know. And then to make it worse, you know, what biblical fucking worse is it? He fucking says amen at the end of it. How biblical you want to fucking get? You know, he could have... What would have been better is if he'd just gone, fuck you, and then it had exploded, because then at least I'd known he didn't give a damn, you know? But he didn't. He's like, amen. And it explodes.
Well, like I said, he is a priest. In the comic book adaptation from Clive Barker, he is a priest character. So he would say quite a few things which are... We would see as biblical.
We would see as biblical. Yeah, but it's exploded, you know. So hell was not only destroyed by the Leviathan in Hellraiser 2.
Well, we never seen what actually happened. But we would know that it must still exist.
Yeah, something happened, but now the gateway to hell that created through the lament, the box itself has finally been destroyed, and Pinhead is dead.
Although there were other boxes, and we never really seen what happened to them in order to get to...
Well, I always, with the way that this film describes it, I always believe that those boxes, they're fake. I think Pinhead himself says, you know, I don't want these boxes anymore. I'm assuming the ones leading up to the one he found in the basement, you know, because these are all fake. I want the actual one your great-great-grandfather created, because they're only weak doorways that can only open one way, where this one can open fully and we can use it back and forth. I don't fucking know. My favourite scenes in this film are I don't want to, but they're pretty much just a lot of the death sequences. You know, the peasant girl at the beginning being strangled and then skinned, and then obviously the birth of Angelique is pretty cool. I wish they had just gone with the Angelique story, and if it hadn't worked, brought Pinhead back in something else. I mean, yeah, it didn't work for Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work for everybody. A lot of the other deaths, the security guard death, I did The Blackguard death was pretty funky, like you said, getting his face torn off. I was actually really impressed by the mirror death. The guy who gets pulled into the mirror by Angelique, who now seems to be working for Pinhead.
Well, yeah, like I said, her and him are at odds with each other, and I guess Pinhead, being the priest of hell, just went, you know what, princess, you tried to do something and it's not working, so we're going to Cenobite you now.
Yeah, we're going to Cenobite you. But she pulls one of the space police into a mirror, and he tries to pull himself out, and his head and arm get cut off when the mirror closes. It's pretty nifty. But my all-time favourite scene was the morgue attendant. His line basically at the beginning of, well, you created it. Why didn't you create a way to destroy it? I was like, yeah, fucking idiot.
Well, then the solution lies literally in your hands.
I have some very memorable sequences in the film. The birth of Angelique. Yeah, we had the awesome transformation sequence in Hellraiser 1 with Frank coming back into his skin.
Yeah.
Yes, Hellraiser 2 had some, we watched Julia also get back into her skin. Hellraiser 3, meh.
Yeah.
Hellraiser 4, Bloodline, when Angelique comes back into her skin, it's over pretty quickly, and it's not as elaborate an effect as some of the other Hellraisers. But just the imagery of it itself is pretty horrifying. Just watching this mass refill this skin. Ugh. And also, I think that the character of Angelique is fascinating and interesting, and I can't help but also feel sorry for her. That she was this princess of hell that got plucked from her dimension into this one to be a slave for 200 years, only to then decide that, okay, finally, maybe now I can close these hell gates and get back to my dimension, only then to be enslaved by fucking Pinhead and turned into a Cenobite.
Yeah, because it's so incoherent, we have no idea what's going on.
So and then she's renegated to like a B story character.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, she was the driving force of the film, and then towards the end, doesn't really matter about her. And so there's a wealth of possibilities and ideas that they could have had with the Angelique character that they didn't utilise properly. But that's not to say I also absolutely love all of the scenes with Pinhead and Angelique. I really do like all of Pinhead's speeches. I think Doug Bradley's having a lot of fun just delivering these great lines in these great sermons just before people get killed.
I am forever.
If you've never seen a Hellraiser film, do not fucking start with this one. If you are a fan of the Hellraiser series and you have got to the end of Hellraiser 3 and were thinking about going and making your way through the rest of them, do it. You have to. You owe it to yourself. They do try new things. They do have more deaths. Doug Bradley does have more screen time. Some of it you may really, really enjoy, like Gary. Some of it you may think is fucking completely retarded, like some of the things I find. They do, even though I might get argued with this at some point, they do bring up some of the religious aspects in this film, mainly because at this point with Hellraiser, that's what people believed. Oh, it's based in hell, so it must be with God and Jesus and all that. No, it doesn't have to be. But you forced that because as a studio company, you're retarded and didn't just give the director and the screenwriter the opening to do whatever they wanted, and if it failed, it fell on them. This movie fails because of the company.
Absolutely right. The studio intervened and botched this project, right at the beginning, and it is an absolute shame because what the original director wanted, what was there with the script, the studio wouldn't even listen to Clive Barker anymore at this point. They were just like, no, we know best. So, as we've said, more is more. We're going to keep putting Pinhead in here, even when he shouldn't be. And it does lessen the impact of the film. Yeah. Granted, as fans, we do get more Pinhead, and he has some great screen time. Unfortunately, it is disjointed. It does jump these timelines, which, if the studio hadn't intervened, we could have had perhaps one of the greatest Hellraiser sequels. But because they deleted all of this material, because they didn't really have any idea how it was going to work out, it does just look like a mess on screen. And it's a real shame because what could have been there could have been something special. I still do have to recommend Hellraiser 4 Bloodlines, because at least this one has interesting characters and interesting concepts. So It's an oddball film to recommend, but I think it's better than Hellraiser 3, and I think that it does end the Hellraiser movies.
So is this the last movie?
Well, that is the last theatrical Hellraiser movie. But don't worry, because Pinhead's coming back, straight to DVD.
Welcome to hell.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
I am forever.